On October 13, U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo led a chorus of criticism against the United Nations after countries with poor human rights records were elected to the UN Human Rights Council. On October 13, Pompeo said in a statement, "The UN General Assembly once again elected countries with abhorrent human rights records, including China, Russia, and Cuba. These elections only further validate the U.S. decision to withdraw and use other venues and opportunities to protect and promote universal human rights." In June 2018, the United States withdrew from the Human Rights Council before its term expired in 2019 over a lack of reforms within the UN body. On October 13, elections for the 47-seat Human Rights Council were held at the UN headquarters in New York City to fill 15 vacant seats distributed among 5 regional groups: African states, Asia-Pacific states, Eastern European states, Latin America and Caribbean states, and Western European and other states. The only competition took place among the Asia-Pacific states, where 5 countries were competing for 4 vacant spots. The other regional groups each had the same number of candidates as the number of vacant seats. For example, France and the United Kingdom filled the 2 vacant seats in the regional group of Western Europe and other states. According to a UN press briefing, Pakistan and Uzbekistan each secured 169 votes, followed by Nepal with 150 votes and China 139. Saudi Arabia was 5th with 90 votes. Other countries that filled the 15 vacant seats included Russia, Bolivia, and Cuba. All 193 member states of the United Nations can vote in each regional group by secret ballot. Winning countries will begin their 3-year term on January 1, 2021. China saw its support at the UN drop considerably compared to the last time it won a seat on the panel in 2016, when it received 180 votes. Pompeo noted that the United States has sought other avenues to promote human rights, such as a virtual side event during the 75th UN General Assembly in September, as well as a landmark event on religious freedom hosted by President Donald Trump last year. Following the U.S.-hosted virtual event on September 23rd, more than 50 countries signed a joint statement recognizing the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, UDHR, noting that certain principles are so fundamental as to apply to all human beings everywhere at all times. The UDHR, proclaimed by the UN General Assembly in 1948, is a milestone document that stipulates that fundamental human rights should be universally protected. Pompeo stated, "The United States' commitment to human rights consists of far more than just words. Through the State Department's action, we have punished human rights abusers in Xinjiang, Myanmar, Burma, Iran, and elsewhere." The U.S. government has sanctioned 6 Chinese officials and 1 Chinese Communist Party entity over human rights abuses against Uyghur Muslims in China's far western region of Xinjiang, where an estimated 1 million Uyghurs are being detained in internment camps. In U.S. think tank Freedom House's latest annual assessment of world countries' level of political rights and civil liberties, China was rated not free with a score of 10 out of 100. At a daily briefing on October 14th, China's Foreign Ministry spokesperson Zhao Lijian called Pompeo's comments very ridiculous. He said the United States should stop spreading political virus and not use human rights as an excuse to interfere in other countries' domestic affairs. Several U.S. lawmakers have since taken to Twitter to voice their opposition to the election results, including Senator Marco Rubio. Rubio wrote, #China, #Russia, and #Cuba. Being elected to the UNHRC is a joke when you consider the egregious human rights violations they commit. The senator added, "This system is broken, and it's a tragedy with the number of urgent human rights challenges globally." Nikki Haley, former U.S. ambassador to the UN, posted on Twitter, "UN Human Rights Council is a total farce not worthy of its name or the United States giving it any credibility." In a tweet, Halil Neuer, executive director of Geneva-based NGO UN Watch, called October 13th a Black Day for human rights. In a separate tweet, Neuer pointed out that based on Freedom House's ratings, 51% of the Human Rights Council member states were rated partly free or not free, meaning they failed to meet the minimal standards of a free democracy. That percentage will increase to 60% beginning on January 1st, 2021, when countries, including China, take their seats.
China held a celebration for the 40th anniversary of the establishment of the Shenzhen Special Economic Zone in Guangdong Province. During the occasion, China was expected to promote the economic policy initiated by Deng Xiaoping in 1978 to open up China to foreign businesses that wanted to invest in the country. Chinese leader Xi Jinping emphasized self-reliance, while Premier Li Keqiang called on governments at all levels to continue to live a frugal life. Li has been advocating frugality since January 2019. 40 years ago, shortly after China started to adopt economic reforms and policies to open up trade with the West, Chinese authorities approved the establishment of special economic zones in Shenzhen, Zhuhai, Shantou, and Xiamen. Among these 4 cities, the authorities gave Shenzhen the most special treatment, allocating enormous resources from around the country and issuing special policies in favor of the city to help boost its development. This is because Shenzhen is adjacent to Hong Kong, an icon of capitalism and the free market. Chinese authorities hope to make Shenzhen a landmark able to rival Hong Kong and showcase the success of communism. Chinese leader Xi Jinping made his trip to Guangdong Province amid the coronavirus pandemic. He first went to Chaozhou City in Guangdong Province for an inspection on October 12th. At a commercial plaza, he talked to local people with a speaker. The video caught people's attention because no one was wearing a mask at the scene. Some Chinese netizens exposed that the road was closed long before Xi's arrival, and all people in the crowd were actors. Moreover, everyone within a radius of 3 miles was appointed to be there by the 9th Public Security Bureau. All these people must have been proven reliable in terms of political stances and pose no coronavirus risk. On October 14th, Xi Jinping delivered a speech at the 40th anniversary of the establishment of the Shenzhen Special Economic Zone. In the 52-minute speech, Xi Jinping not only spoke more slowly than usual, but also coughed frequently and paused to drink water many times. Some foreign media and Hong Kong media specifically reported on this, saying that Xi seemed to have some health issues. As it is becoming increasingly difficult for China to obtain advanced technology from developed countries, and the US-China trade war has led to a great downfall in China's foreign trade sector, Xi emphasized in his speech that China has entered a new economic pattern of domestic and international dual cycles.
We can see that China's current economy is very bad, and it is falling drastically. It was obvious during the 8-day National Day holiday when tourism activities dropped by nearly 1/3. It could be said to be a cliff-like drop. China still needs the support of foreign capital and technology to sustain its economic growth. Right now, no matter in which aspect, China does not have real independence. It cannot complete the operation of its entire industrial ecological chain without relying on foreign capital and technology.
During Xi Jinping's Guangdong tour, he once again quoted the phrase self-reliance with our own efforts by former CCP leader Mao Zedong, saying that China is undergoing major changes unseen in a century and is going to take the path of self-reliance through independent innovation. Bloomberg pointed out that the so-called major changes unseen in a century clearly refer to the deterioration of US-China relations and the economic impact of the epidemic. Qin Peng, a political and economic analyst in the United States, said that promoting so-called self-reliance in Mao Zedong's era was actually going back to the closed-door policy.
What did Chinese people experience back then? Closed-door policy, being backward in technology, planned economy, serious unemployment, and a dying economy. In the CCP's propaganda, self-reliance is touted as a great thing, but in fact, it goes hand in hand with tragedy, ignorance, and falling far behind the international community. Therefore, when Xi Jinping talks about self-reliance, although it seems to be a way out, it is the wrong decision, as can be seen from a historical perspective.
On the day before Xi Jinping visited Shenzhen, the General Office of the Central Committee of the CCP and the General Office of the State Council issued the 2020 to 2025 implementation plan for the pilot reform program to make Shenzhen into an exemplary economic zone of socialism with Chinese characteristics.
The text of the pilot program clearly stated that when transforming Shenzhen, there is a principle that absolutely cannot be changed, which is to strengthen the leadership of the party. That is to say, no matter how you reform, open up, innovate, or revigorate the economy, there is a principle that the leadership of the party must be ubiquitous and must be strengthened throughout the process.
Tang believes the so-called exemplary zone is centered on the absolute leadership of the CCP, and then disguised under a cloak of so-called market economy, reform, and opening up.
Let's discuss it from a greater perspective. Xi Jinping may treat Shenzhen as an exemplary zone, where political and economic reforms are integrated. Of course, politics will likely be the first priority. China plans to complete this pilot reform by 2025 and have it become a model for Chinese cities nationwide. That means this model will be replicated in other cities and regions. So this is very worthy of attention. At least from the official information, this is going to be Xi Jinping's governance model for the entire China in the next 5 years.
Xi also reiterated the full implementation of the one country, two systems policy and promoted the harmonious development of mainland China, Hong Kong, and Macau. The Chinese edition of Radio France pointed out that under Xi's rule, Hong Kong, once known as the Pearl of the Orient, lost its charm in just a few months. Chinese Premier Li Keqiang once again spoke out about China's economic difficulties, admitting that the situation is quite challenging. When hosting a symposium on the economic situation on October 12, he said that the current domestic and international environment is complex and severe, and governments at all levels must continue to live a frugal life.
According to an insider, on October the 6th, Chinese activist Huang Yang was summoned to the local police station in Chongqing City for purchasing US flags online. The insider, surnamed Yang, told the Epoch Times in an interview that around 2 p.m, Mr. Huang Yang received a call from the domestic security team of Yubei District, Chongqing City. Yang said after US President Donald Trump announced that he'd tested positive for COVID-19 on October the 2nd, some residents in Chongqing City wanted to plan an event to show their support. Huang and a few other people planned a gathering so they could take photos of themselves holding up American flags and post their well wishes to Trump on social media. Huang was responsible for placing the online order for the flags, Yang said. The local police were alarmed and quickly intercepted. They discovered Huang's plan through monitoring his phone calls. He was summoned to the domestic security team of the local police bureau. On October the 6th, when Huang arrived at the police station at 3 p.m, the police asked him to describe the number and size of the US flags he'd ordered. According to Yang, Huang told the police, "Why are you making such a big deal about this? Take a look at Sun Lijian, the former Deputy Minister of Public Security, and Dong Huilin, the head of Chongqing Police. They were your top leaders, but both have been sacked. So don't think so highly of yourselves." After the interrogation process, the police gave Huang a verbal warning. He left the police station at around 7 p.m. Yang said that since the US flags that Huang ordered online are all made and sold in mainland China, then it shouldn't be illegal to use them. He did not believe that Huang violated the law, but Yang wondered why the authorities were alarmed. Some residents even joked, "The wicked CCP, Chinese Communist Party regime, is so scared of American national flags as ghosts are afraid of amulets, then why don't we buy more?" It's not the first time that Huang had gotten into trouble with the authorities. From February the 5th to the 15th during COVID-19 lockdowns, Huang was summoned to the local police station 4 times for criticizing the Chinese regime on WeChat, a popular Chinese social media platform. According to Radio Free Asia, RFA, on August the 1st, 2019, Huang was detained and mistreated at the police station for supporting Hong Kongers who were protesting against police brutality and the CCP's encroachment of Hong Kong's liberties.